कल से थंबनेल देख देख के।
भाई अब विवेक को बता दे तू आ गया है, वो बेचारा तेरा थंबनेल देख देख के थक गया है, वो कब से वेट कर रहा होगा क्योंकि हमारा
हाँ यार
कोलैबोरेशन इज
मतलब
पेंडिंग फॉर मंथ्स,
बताओ।
राइट? हाउ व्हेन इज इट दैट वी लास्ट स्पोक? यू माइट वांट टू म्यूट दैट। तू आ गया है, वो बेचारा तेरा थंबनेल देख देख के थक गया है, वो कब से वेट कर रहा तेरे होगा पीसी पे मेरे ख्याल से पीछे से वो चल रहा है।
अच्छा,
हाँ उसको
इज
म्यूट
इट
कर
बेटर
दो।
नाउ?
राइट, इट्स बेटर, या। व्हेन वाज द लास्ट टाइम वी स्पोक, तीर्थक?
डायरेक्टली इट्स बिन अ व्हाइल, बट
राइट,
हाँ चैटें तो होती रहती हैं।
हाँ, we'll text once in a while, but like I think
Yeah.
जो जब the last time Vishnu and I were talking and you'd come over, when was that? How long
Yeah,
ago
yeah,
was
yeah.
that?
I think it's been a few months. Yeah, it's been a
Huh?
couple months.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's been a couple months.
And since then we've been sort of kind of trying to have like an idea of what we'll talk about. And
Yeah,
I'm glad we bottled it down to what we did, which is going to be, you know, like something that I'm very passionate about.
yeah, yeah. Me too.
Right, I think an experience that you would quite relate to in my sense, maybe not as much as probably someone else, but still, was I could not deal with the science as it was taught in
Yeah,
our CBSE regular whatever schools that we went to. And
yeah,
then when I had an absolutely disassociated interaction with science again, right,
yeah,
when I was free to interact with it at my own will, in my own judgment, with my own tastes and preferences,
yeah,
I automatically became so much more fond
yeah,
of the sciences. Like it happened
yeah.
just like this. You don't think?
And that doesn't surprise me actually. I've seen this actually world over in different contexts of with people of different nationalities, different education systems. It's the same story, you know. This sentence comes up again and again. So I'm just gonna go into it a little bit because it just came in my head. ये सेंटेंस काफी बार सुना है मैंने कि या आई हेट दैट सब्जेक्ट, typically spoken of maths and physics. Yeah, I hate that subject. And I feel like मतलब जो बोल रहे उनकी गलती नहीं है. And I'm gonna, is it okay if I switch between Hindi and English? I'm not sure what your audience is
You're
like,
the
but
linguist here.
my dad is the linguist here.
That's the linguist here.
Yeah. Yeah, let's not get my daddy issues into this live.
See, I am not the one trying to do that. Listen, that's not on
Yeah.
me. Huh.
यार अभी भी यार मतलब when someone calls me Mr. Saha, I'm just like, Dad, calm down. Anyway,
Destined to live under the shadow, huh?
I know. No, dude, my dad's shadow is huge, but
Right.
we'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, point being, ये sentence हर जगह सुना है मैंने, बच्चों से लेके बड़ों तक, मेरे से भी बड़े जो है, कि I hate that subject, or I hated that subject. I don't want to talk about it. Usually maths, physics, science subjects में. And I think that that's not an incorrect statement for the people who are saying this. I think it is an incomplete statement. The reason I say that is that you don't know the subject at all, right? How can you hate something that you have never been introduced to, right? It's like कोई बंदा मेरे पास आता है कि so I'm single right now, right? So if my friend comes over and we're just hanging out and he says, dude, I met this girl, I think you guys would be a good match, you should try it out. And he gives me a very basic kind of description of her, right? Like height ye hai, weight ye hai, her favorite color is black, whatever, so on and so forth. And I'm like, I hate her. कितना absurd लगता है सुनने में, right? And so I think that the problem is that people don't get introduced to what physics actually is, what maths actually is. So if I may, can I take like 2 seconds to divert?
Before
I
you do,
promise I'll join back in.
sure. Like, do you want to divert to a different topic altogether, or like, what do you mean?
No. It's the same thing, but I'm going to take a different way of like trying to make people understand what I'm trying to say here.
Before you do that, on the same path that you just started, no, that it's like there's something stopping people from truly interacting with math and science. My question then becomes, what is this obstruction? What is stopping people? Because we are studying it, right? Our books are filled with questions of math and science. All our middle years, from I think grade 4th or 5th minimum to all the way to like 12th grade you were almost surrounded with mathematics, and even after, like वो तो testing
Yeah.
years है वहाँ पे, तो मतलब तुम educate हो रहे हो proper, teachers हैं responsible. What is
Yeah.
it like, what is stopping me from being
Exactly.
हाँ
हाँ वही पॉइंट है यार. मतलब actually before we get into that, I'm seeing some comments कि ये है कौन. So maybe we'll get into an introduction of
I mean,
who I am in just a little
we don't
bit.
have to. You're my
But
guest. That's it. End of story.
हाँ
हाँ
सर ठीक है. मैं प्रखर का भाई है.
हाँ
ठीक है.
सही है.
हाँ so anyway, so speaking of linguistics, ठीक है, let's take a linguistics theory of which has evolved greatly with our understanding of human psychology and how child psychology works, etc. over पहले लगता था, पहले जो definition था मदर टंग का डेफिनेशन बहुत पहले ये होता था कि जहां पे आप पैदा हुए हो वहां उस रीजन में जो लैंग्वेज बोला जा रहा है वो आपका मदर टंग है. ठीक है.
Right.
But then people started migrating, right? And the world became more globalized. Indian parents moved to the US and had kids there, right? And then linguists started noticing that kids are picking up 3, 4, 5 languages all at the same time, you know, in perfect language. So now the linguistics theory of mother tongue says that children between the age of, I think I can get these ages wrong, but approximately 3 to 9, they can pick up any language through immersion, no limits. Any number of languages, any number of accents, any number of grammatologies, okay? But the only caveat is that this is only applicable for speaking, the spoken part of languages, not the writing. Why is that? The reason behind that is that speaking has a lot of human context with it. A lot of your senses are engaged when you are looking at me and you're hearing me, right? You're looking at my hand gestures, you're looking at my facial expressions,
Right.
you're getting the intonations, the differences in inflection and all that. So it is much easier for a human being to grasp and pick up a language, the spoken part of it. That's why babies speak before they write. Now, coming to the writing part is an artificial human construct जो हमने बनाया है. हमने यहाँ पे एक ऐसा लाइन ड्रॉ करके हमने बोला है कि this denotes S. That is not a natural universal S. The S sound a baby can make because that is just the baby's biology.
That's basic
उसको
programming.
अलग से सीखना नहीं पड़ेगा कि
Right.
स कैसे बोलते हैं.
Right.
So the rules of grammar, the letters, which letter represents which sound, how they work together to form words, how they form together to form sentences से paragraphs कैसे बनते हैं, all that is rules. Those are artificial.
Right.
That's why they are taught later.
Right.
But कोई भी इंडिया में, मैं इंडिया की बात कर रहा हूं अभी, we'll get to other nations बाद में.
Right.
ठीक है. कोई भी हमारा फिजिक्स नोटबुक उठा ले, कोई भी फिजिक्स का या मैथ्स का बुक उठा ले, टेक्स्ट बुक उठा ले, 9th 10th 11th 12th, क्या पढ़ाया जा रहा है?
ये जो रूल्स हैं. Right.
Formulas, rules,
हाँ.
the maths behind it, which is an artificial construct used to describe the physics of the natural world.
Right.
कहीं पे स्टोरी नहीं बता रहे
हाँ.
कि भैया कहां से आ रहा है ये सब, हाउ डज इट अफेक्ट यू इन
Right.
योर ह्यूमन कॉन्टेक्स्ट. तो हमें कोई ह्यूमन कॉन्टेक्स्ट नहीं दे रहा है साइंस में. सो नाउ तूने अभी जो बोला कि when I left school, I hated it. I left school and then I got reintroduced to physics or maths in the real universe in a different
Reality.
personal
Right.
environment, related environment. I saw physics in a whole new light.
Right.
Why? Because you entered context first.
हाँ.
And now if you want to, you can learn the rules of it.
Bro, that's solid. That's a very solid explanation. So to answer the question I had, which is that what is standing in the way, I thought answer क्या होगा, testing या education system या teacher quality, but it is actually कि connect है ही नहीं. There is nobody standing. There is no path to meeting physics where physics belongs. It is only क्या कि F is equal to ma.
हाँ.
Right.
But
वो
force
physics
है
है.
क्या?
हाँ.
फोर्स है क्या? मास है क्या?
Right.
ए एक्सेलरेशन है, मुझे पता है. ए का मेरा मैं उसका
9.8 मीटर पर
differential
सेकंड
integral
स्क्वायर
निकाल सकता.
हाँ.
है क्या?
हाँ.
how does it affect me in my personal human context? कोई context नहीं देता है. So it's kind of like trying to teach a baby how to write before teaching them how to speak. How absurd would that be?
Bro, that's a beautiful analogy. That bloody works. If you get to explain that to somebody, I don't know if have you covered this in your content yet?
No.
This needs to be a clip. This needs to be a clip that goes like, matlab, this makes the problem so easy to understand. It is probably one of the closest metaphors you can make without getting into details and blames.
Yeah.
You can explain why we are fundamentally broken in the way we approach education. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And this applies to anything you want to pick up. Yeah. Why is something like let's say Duolingo? I don't know how many of
No, I've used Duolingo. Duolingo is
people
great.
have heard of it.
Right.
Duolingo is basically
Hold up. You cut out. Do we have you? Duolingo is basically
a language learning app. Can you hear me?
Right. Yeah, I can hear you now.
It's probably the most important, like, popular language learning app across the world, as
Right.
far as I know. I could
think
be
so
wrong.
too.
The reason it became so popular all of a sudden was that in the app, it was engaging at least 3 of your senses.
Huh.
Visual,
Huh.
pictures दिखा रहा था, ठीक है? It was using the words in sentences that made sense regardless of your personal history, like your background, your nationality, whatever. ठीक है? It also had the auditory thing, like
Right.
if someone was speaking the shit to you.
Right.
Right. Oh, also, I don't know if I can curse.
Oh yeah, you can curse, bro. ये कोई
Okay.
टाइम नहीं है रूल्स के बारे में सोचने का. Just by the way,
ठीक है.
now you do what you do. मैं बाद में edit
ठीक है,
करवा
ठीक है.
दूंगा. हाँ, go ahead. And shit is not curse, by the way. I want to change this for the world. Very importantly for my parents and their generation. Shit is not curse. Shit is what you do every day before you press the flush. Like, think about it. Please don't, like, there is real curse words that we should not dilute by saying shit is a curse word. Right? Fuck is a curse word. Okay, now we can do that, you know? Like, but shit, no. Huh.
No.
Go on.
Yeah. But we can do both. So,
Yes,
because
you
it's
do
our
both.
life.
That's fine. Huh.
If you don't like it, fuck off. Anyway.
नहीं, नहीं. That part I don't agree with. I'm sorry, I'm backing out of that.
I know. That's just me, guys. Okay. So coming back to the point. The point being that there is a natural order of pedagogy or learning. Okay, that we apply in a lot of human places. Just like I said, like teaching babies how to do stuff, right? Motor skills, language skills, etc. Why do we stop doing that once a child is in school? Why do we not apply the same methodologies? And a lot of work is happening now, you know, like in the modern form of education. People are talking about this. People are talking to educationists. People are talking to pedagogy experts, psychology experts, and they're bringing it in. But I believe, this is just my personal opinion, that on an average, it's not that they are perfect, but on an average, the West has been a little bit ahead in this than us.
In what exactly? In how they teach their kids?
In how they in the approach that they use to teach their kids, not what they teach their kids, but the approach. So sometimes when we go from India to the States, जब मतलब bachelors करके masters करने जाते हैं लोग, or even for bachelors actually, we find the first 2-3 years very easy because we've already done that in 9th 10th. But which part do we find easy? That's the interesting thing. The part that we find easy is इसका फॉर्मूला क्या है. मुझे पता है क्योंकि मुझे 9th में रटवाया गया था. तो मुझे पता है. And some American kid, poor kid, is like there with his like big ass calculator trying to figure it out.
Right.
Okay. So now in this world, like, that has become synonymous with smart.
Right.
But then if you look at the last 10 years or 20 years of how many world-changing research papers have come out of which countries' universities, there is an overwhelming majority in the West.
The US, yeah. No, in the US primarily.
Yeah, primarily in the US,
I'm
but
pretty
also
sure it's
like
landslide.
but also like Europe, like Switzerland, Germany, etc. But yeah, overwhelmingly in the West.
Right.
The reason for that is the methodology. You know, they teach you how to think. versus what to think.
Well, I mean, see, that's a fair point, but it's also a fair leap. So let me chunk it up a little bit so we can sort of handle that, right?
Uh-huh.
It makes no sense to me that you would train your kid and then berate him, assess him, evaluate him, tell him he's good or bad at such an impressionable age for his information retrieval abilities. The fact that he can pull out rabbits from his hat when asked to should be no metric
Yeah.
to judge a kid. I understand that was possible in the times when, we had no internet and maybe information retrieval and bandwidth of communication was the limiting factor of growth. Like how quickly can you recall is sufficient to make you grow through the hierarchy? Maybe. Today,
Yeah.
no matter what, your kid is facing the risk of being replaced with technology faster than ever. Heck, you, before you even retire, no matter how old you are facing the risk of being replaced by technology like this. Probably you are somebody who's already been replaced by technology. So wake up to that, right? Information retrieval should be no means, and it should be no metric, and it should be no test, and it should be no judgment on how well the child is positioned, let's just say, towards academia itself, towards the pure art of trying to learn. Let's just stick to that. So that makes no sense to me, right? Like if I decouple the American or the Western way and what happens to the Indian student in the West, the Indian student in the West comes with a worse predicament in my sense. Well, there is pros, like we're very trained to work hard over long periods of time under massive stress.
Yep.
Right? Because we are doing this since we were kids. We've been slogging, legit.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a good life skill to have, but
it's a good life skill to have,
pros and
sure.
cons.
Especially if you're, see, I don't think it's a good life skill to have overall. Like I think it like selects, see, किसके लिए अच्छा बनता है वो तीर्थक? वो जो लोग वहां जाके फाइट करते हैं ना रहने के लिए, उनको तो चाहिए वो हसल यार. उनको तो वो करना पड़ेगा because they're trying to fight for a first seat at the table, then for something else at all. Right?
Yep.
Like, you cannot imagine, say, like, who do I give as an example? Where I think Norway or Sweden or one of these countries have like a 4-hour workday or a 6-hour workday now. They're like, we'll work 4 hours a week, 6 hours a day. That's it. Right? Unke yahan pe this skill's not like, they don't need it. It's contextual. Right? So for the Indian, it's a good skill to have. Sure, why not? But at the same time, I see duds, man. I see empty duds. Like there is absolutely no semblance of the idea they're talking about. There is no semblance. It's a pure repetition based memory that's kind of, but it's not understanding. That's very rare. I don't think I'm unique. Like I genuinely don't think I'm unique. Who am I, right? I just think I took the road where I focused on understanding. And people look at me, people are like, oh my God, bro, you have all these ideas. And I'm no. I just took the route where I try to understand instead of memorize and opinionate. Like, what is the essence? I just kept asking why. And I don't think we are trained as a society to ask the question why.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's on point. I mean, वही है ना problem में यार. India में, I think, I'm again, the reason I say India again and again is because I think that's one place that I am authorized to talk about, or like I have a right to talk about because it's my home.
Here is what I'll say, right? Even in the most dynamic of conversation grounds, which is politics, I'm pretty sure the left and the right, or whatever you want to divide the scale as, agree on the fact that education in India is trash. So we can pretty much bash it right now without having, like, we don't have to like disclaim the whole thing. Let's be real about it, right? Like it's trash.
No, matlab, it's not always bad. Like it's not bashing. It's just like calling out what I see is real. And if anyone has like a good point to counter that, I'm always happy to listen. But so far I haven't.
Right.
And the point is that India mein, I think science is revered, but not scientific thinking. And that's the issue. That's a huge issue in our scientific and technological communities. Like you'll see people with like double PhDs working at very high places, but सोच वही है.
यार but पता है क्या तीर्थक, in all
they
fairness,
don't analyze their daily life situations with the same principles that they have a PhD in, which is amazing to me.
I don't think like I'm so maybe you're more exposed to that directly. But here's my guess. So I think it's a known statistic that about 50% scientists tend to be religious, right? Like there is a very equal divide in the middle in places that are aggressively atheistic as well. Like that sort of, or like even like it sort of represents the population average in that way, right? And so the point that there is the dogmatic thinking in everyday life, even for scientific minds, is applicable universally. Plus there is something called far transfer, which is, or rather domain independence. right? So
Domain dependent.
right, rules of physics that I learned in a textbook, do they apply to real life too? And in what circumstances do they apply, right? And then
Yeah.
can I use that mental model and apply it somewhere else? The fact that force is
Yeah.
equal to mass into acceleration, that principle that
Right.
variable A is equal to variable B into C, right? That's a mental model. So, and
Yeah.
that's also very rare. That does not come
Yeah.
until there is deeper understanding, right? And so, and I'm also disposed to say that specialization sort of breeds that out. The more PhDs you have, probably the less you were thinking scientifically in your everyday life is probably a correlated possibility. Because then I'm looking
Is
at
it
the
though?
world just like, don't you think?
I'm curious about that point because no, I mean I don't know the answer. Like, it's not like I'm challenging you or anything. मेरे को सही में नहीं पता, but it just caught my attention for a second because now I'm thinking about it. Because I've met people, again, the whole 50% thing is there, right? Like, so I've seen PhDs who, like, if you ask them a question, right? And by PhDs, I mean like actual scientists working in NASA or whatever, right?
Right.
So if you ask them like a basic question, they'll answer you. They'll give you the normal day-to-day answer. But then they'll come back to you like, ye hua hai, actual like real life examples. Like 3-4 days later, they're like, Acha, by the way, you asked me that question. So I actually went out and I found out कि ये actually में क्यों होता है. And this is the thing, right? Like this is how it started, in case you were curious. And no one asked him to. I was satisfied, right? But this like spirit of inquisitiveness, of ki, regardless, like there doesn't need to be
A reward system at the top of this.
exactly inquisitiveness for its own sake. Yes, spirit I've seen in roughly 50% of high functioning PhDs, and in 50% I haven't seen it. And the divide has primarily, in my experience at least, has been West versus East, which is interesting. I'm not drawing a parallel there because, correlation is not causation. But
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. And like, bro, like, let's take it off the individual, no? Let's take it off the characteristic. Let's take it off the national. Let's take it to the system.
Yeah.
Because the system's
Yeah.
where it's really at. You train your kids to not ask question. Right? Like, and I mean this for as a universal, like, you know, I was so surprised, dude. I was so surprised by the liberty I had at Columbia, in the sense of the fact that I could walk out of a class, ask a question that was stupid, right? All that stuff.
Yeah.
There was no like, you were an idiot. How dare you do that? Like, are
Yeah.
you a delinquent? How dare you walk out? It's like, tu delinquent hai, tu apna dekh. And what that does is not like, it's not a carefree approach. It's a reflective approach. Now you reflect on your fucking life, man. You reflect on the fact whether you want to go to class or not. You're a grown up. If you've been trained to not think at the cost of keeping you young and naive, like, I wonder, okay, theek hai, let me ask this to the society at large, right? Like public, parents, teachers, administrators. When is the child grown up? एक age दे दो. इसके बाद हम इसको नहीं बोलेंगे कुछ भी. We won't try to cut his wings. We'll only try to support and encourage him. तू जा experiment कर, जो गलती है हम देखेंगे. When do you get to that place in life? Right?
Yeah,
like,
that's a good question. I think
when does he or she get to make independent choices? एक age दे दो. If you're 17, 18, 19, 20, if you're watching this and if you're worried that your family does that, go to your family, tell them, मेरे को आज हम दोनों बैठ के साथ में 50-50% equity लेके एक एज negotiate करेंगे. Say 25 तक you need to become reasonable enough where you can take care of yourself and they need to let you bloody go. Because bro, you know, the most, like, I have realized this off late and it blows my mind. One of the things I need to make a video on Prakhar ke Pravachan is how do I tell my parents I want to do X but they don't want me to do X, kind of a situation. And what that really means
that's
is,
like 50% of my DMs,
right?
On my Instagram. Like,
Right?
that's 50% of my DMs.
It's not funny. I thought it'd be how do I get a girlfriend, and that's very high on like with the kind of bullshit DMs you get too. But this one is absolutely skyrocket, right?
अच्छा, वो वाला question मेरा भी है, ठीक है, बाद में वो
We'll
इसके बाद।
go over it. We'll go over it. But here is the bloody thing, man. Here is the thing about that. What that basically means is, how do I learn to escape the shadow of my father in a way? How do I learn to like forge an individual personality of myself? And it involves two things. One, courage on your behalf, because you will be unstable for a while. You will not know what to do for a while. You'll try hard for a while. You'll fail and you'll have self-doubt for a while. That's step number one. And step number two is, well, they have to understand. You have to push that, right? Like, and they'll be angry for a while. There's going to be discontent for a while. But you've got to make it happen. Reality will sharpen you. When you start interacting with reality, it'll beat you. It'll sharpen you. You stand back and you continue fighting. And that's what sort of does that.
No, exactly. Like, I want to give an example here. Like,
Right.
it's not like this is a like out of the blue kind of thing that we're talking about. Just to give you an example, ये सबके साथ होता है. अभी I've lived in the US for 7 years.
Right.
ठीक है. I came back last year. ठीक है. After 7 years, which is like basically 1/4 of my life, if you think about it, which is a huge deal. ठीक है. Okay.
And 1/4 of your life is more than half of your adult life, by the way.
That's true. Like, yeah, conscious life. Yeah. So, क्या कहता? हाँ. So I came back and I live in Delhi, right? And my parents a house in Delhi, right? I came. First thing I did was I started looking for apartments. When I was living in Chicago, I had an apartment of my own. ठीक है. First thing I came back, I started looking for an apartment. Sorry.
Chicago में कहाँ रहता तू?
Chicago में downtown यार.
Cool city, no?
हाँ, 3 rivers के पास.
Very cold though. Very cold.
Bro, I love the cold. I love the cold. I can't stand the heat. ये मतलब यूएस जाने से पहले भी I don't know मेरे बॉडी में कोई रिएक्शन होता है हीट से. तो मैं तो बहुत सही था मेरे लिए.
You were saying.
हाँ. So and my family is one of the most progressive liberal families you will find in terms of thinking. ठीक है. It's not like a typical like US family. ठीक है. प्री रिकॉर्डेड है कि नहीं चल रहा है.
मैंने भी लिख दिया भाई नहीं है रिकॉर्डेड यार, अभी बात कर रहे हैं लाइव तुमसे अभी.
हाँ. अरे भैया यहीं पे है. आप भी यहीं पे हो, हम यहीं पे. तो एनीवे एंड माय डैड इज लाइक इवन मोर सो. ठीक है. When I was growing up, I wanted to take up engineering because it was the closest that I could get to physics without losing the practicality of the subject. तब मेरे को ज्यादा पता नहीं था कि फिजिक्स कैसा पढ़ाया जाता है बाकी देशों में एंड ऑल दैट. मेरे को लगता है मुझे जितना दिखा मुझे इंडिया में कि यार फिजिक्स पढ़ना बट वो सिर्फ थ्योरी समझाते, मुझे एक्चुअली में कुछ करना है अपने हाथों से. तो आई थिंक इंजीनियरिंग इज अ गुड बैलेंस. तो मुझे इंजीनियरिंग करना था. My dad is a linguist. My mom studied psychology. My whole family is from fucking arts. ठीक है. And my dad comes to me and she says, यार तू इतना सही लिखता है. Are you sure you don't want to be a writer? So my story is like completely the opposite of like the typical Indian context. And so I said, no, I want to take engineering. So ये सब. Now I come back after 7 years. My dad says कि तू क्यों रहेगा? जब अपना घर है तू बाहर क्यों रहेगा?
Right.
That conversation stretched on for 2 weeks. I literally got like a little contentious. Like उनके ego पे लग गया कि यार हमारा बेटा है चाहे कितने भी साल का हो. ठीक है. Why would he live by himself?
Right.
And I'm like,
it makes very little sense to be honest, Tirthak.
Yeah.
I'd say go back to your family.
अरे
I'm just messing with
अब मैं
you.
जाता हूँ. मैं अभी वहीं से आया हूँ. ठीक है. मैं 2 दिन जाता हूँ हफ्ते में. मैं मिलके आता हूँ सब.
Right.
बट यार नहीं यार मतलब ये नहीं होगा मेरे से कि मैं 28 years का हो गया हूँ. 29 अभी. And मतलब I can't. It's just not right.
Right. You need your space. It's understandable.
Yeah, you need your individuality. You need everything, and so ये सब है. But yeah, the point being that this happens at any age in some societies. So where does that stop? That's a good question.
Right. And मैं तो इसकी societal connotations की बात ही नहीं कर रहा. मैं सिर्फ parent और तुम्हारे बीच की agreement की बात कर रहा हूँ. ठीक है. क्योंकि ऐसा हो सकता है कि तुम socially financially independent हो गए हो, बट बिकॉज तुमने कभी ऑफिशियली अपने घर पे वो इंडिपेंडेंस मांगी नहीं, तुम उनके उसी पैराडाइम में एग्जिस्ट कर रहे हो, उस रियलिटी के जहां पे तुम बच्चे हो. तुम्हारे अपने पर नहीं है, तुम्हारे पर काट दिए जाएंगे. अब होगा क्या? तुम्हारे अंदर फ्रस्ट्रेशन बनेगी. इवेंचुअली यू विल एंड अप फाइटिंग. राइट. तो the general point is, and plus you've not been trained for it. Like part of the whole thing with entrepreneurship, you understand, right? And I've come to understand that there is never no certainty. It's always a series of leaps of faith. You have to somewhat risk some to gain more. Right? Like I could go settle for a good job right now. Or I could continue doing this random bullshit that I'm doing, hoping to make some magic happen as time goes by. I don't know where, like people may look from the outside, be like, Tirthak has got his life sorted, Prakhar has got... No, that's a consistent series of leaps of faith.
Yeah.
Right? And so has that been for almost everybody else for whom it has been who's watching, right?
Exactly. I touched upon this a little bit. वो जो पहला जो TED Talk दिया था उसमें मैंने थोड़ा सा इसमें बोला था. मेरा प्रॉब्लम विद द होल टेड टॉक सिस्टम है कि मेरे को ज्ञान देना पसंद नहीं है. लाइक एज अ पर्सन मेरे को पसंद नहीं है. आई वुड मच रादर लाइक टीच यू.
राइट.
वो दैट्स अ डिफरेंट थिंग. बट हाँ मतलब टेड टॉक में जो फॉर्मेट है 15 मिनट में जो बोलना है. एनीवे तो मैंने ये बोला था कि द एनालॉजी टू दिस इज दैट मैं तेरे पे नए नए फॉर्म्स के प्रॉब्लम्स फेंके जा रहा हूं एंड यू आर लुकिंग फॉर सॉल्यूशंस इन योर करंट टूल चेस्ट।
हाँ
तूने बिल्कुल नया गाड़ी ले लिया है, ठीक है, तेरे पास पहले मारुति था, अब तूने टेस्ला ले लिया है, ठीक है।
राइट
तूने मारुति जब लिया था उसके टाइम पे तूने मारुति का रिपेयर किट जो होता है तूने वो लिया था, ठीक है। अब तूने टेस्ला ले लिया है, पर तू अभी भी मारुति के रिपेयर किट से तू टेस्ला को फिक्स करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, ऐसे होएगा भाई। तो तुम्हारे कंफर्ट जोन में जो है, जो एग्जिस्टिंग सॉल्यूशंस है, उससे तुम्हें नए प्रॉब्लम्स कैसे सॉल्व करोगे? एंड एवरी डे इज अ न्यू प्रॉब्लम, so you have to continuously, like you were saying, continuously take those leaps of faith and go searching for new solutions in different places.
right right so tell me about I want to drive this conversation back to education, right?
Sure.
So at least on the first thing that we can agree from the entire equation was that we had
By the way, एक सेकंड, सॉरी, तेरा बर्थडे है क्या आज?
नहीं है यार भाई, कल मेरे को रॉ एंड रियल से जंप ऑफ करना था एंड आई मेड दिस जस्ट लाइक दिस जोक, आई वाज लाइक हो सकता है मेरा बर्थडे हो सकता है मेरे को इसलिए जाना हो, और लोग मेरे को तब से हैप्पी बर्थडे विश कर रहे हैं, नहीं है मेरा बर्थडे 2 हफ्ते बाद है, 2 हफ्ते बाद आना, जाओ बाय।
भैया मेरा कर दो, मेरा कल था।
हाँ
ठीक है,
उसका कल था, उसको विश कर दो।
चलो।
So my question to you is then, you know, like the other half of that proposition is that we've sort of experienced somewhat of an improvement on education,
Yeah.
right? And so we'll have to be fair to that. We'll have to be fair to what that kind of improvement is, because
Yeah.
well, I didn't think it was perfect for a minute, right? And neither did you. That's a very naive thought to have, that was perfect.
Yeah.
But it was a definite improvement regardless. Like, it changed my life. It flipped it upside down, and I've seen a lot of people go through that. In fact, most
Yeah.
people who can afford it go there because they want that flip. And if you play it right, you might have that flip.
Yeah.
What is happening in a country like America? Because, and here is something else I'll add to it, right? Just for credibility's sake. I think the college education thing, especially on the undergrad level, especially in an Ivy League or the West Coast schools, is probably, as an experience, is probably the 8th wonder of the world. As an experience, if you do it right. I'm a very good student. Like, I love being a student, and I know how to like extract it. समझ रहा है ना, रस निकालना उसमें से. And I can tell you, man, it is fantastic if you care about ideas to be there.
Yeah. I think you touched upon a very, very important point though. वो तो मतलब तू टच करके निकल गया, but I think it's important for people to hear this.
Right.
Which is, if you know how to make it work, ये phrase use किया तूने. That is the difference between, I think, our education system and their education system, is that वो scope है कि you can have different experiences from the same university.
Right.
इंडिया में जितने लोग आईटी जा रहे, सबका एक्सपीरियंस यूनिफॉर्म है, बिकॉज देयर इज नो फ्रीडम। तू क्लास से बाहर नहीं निकल सकता। तेरे क्लासेस आर गिवन टू यू एट द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द सेमेस्टर। यू आर नॉट स्केड्यूलिंग, मतलब छोटे एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव काम से लेके मोर फिलोसॉफिकल थिंग्स ऑल्सो, बट इवन द एडमिन थिंग्स, राइट? लाइक वहां पे यू एंड आई नो दैट वी सिलेक्ट आवर ओन क्लासेस कि इस सेमेस्टर मुझे ये क्लास लेना है। वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी तेरे पे है कि तेरे को सुबह 4 बजे उठ के, जिस दिन क्लासेस रिलीज होंगे, जल्दी से जल्दी तेरे को बुक करने जो तेरे को चाहिए।
राइट।
दैट क्रिएट्स एन एक्साइटमेंट फॉर द क्लास बिकॉज़ you've researched it, you've researched the prof, you've researched the subject।
अरे मेरी पर्सनल इन्वेस्टमेंट है ना, किसी ने थप्पड़ मार के थोड़ी ये पड़ेगा तू। हाँ
exactly। and so you know the professor intimately before you even take the class,
right?
so now when you meet them, you have like a mental connection with them, so your experience is different. For everyone's experience is different. If there's 25 people in a class, 25 people are coming in for different reasons. किसी को बस ये स्ट्राइक ऑफ करना है, किसी को वो प्रोफेसर बहुत पसंद है, किसी को ये सब्जेक्ट बहुत पसंद है पर कोई और प्रोफेसर मिला नहीं उस सेमेस्टर में,
राइट?
so on and so forth.
Right.
Everyone is having a different experience.
Plus उनका जो बैकग्राउंड परम्यूटेशन कॉम्बिनेशन है, because you picked on that, right? Like सोच के देख कि अच्छा ये इसने अभी जो क्लास ली है, इससे पहले स्टैटिस्टिक्स की क्लास में था, इससे पहले वो कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर की क्लास में था, और अब बैठा हुआ है वो मेरे साथ एस्ट्रोनॉमी की क्लास में, ठीक है? द एक्सपीरियंस दैट दे ब्रिंग टू द टेबल एंड द एक्सपीरियंस दैट यू ब्रिंग टू द टेबल व्हेन डिस्कशंस रियली हैपन is novel, is profound. हाँ,
Exactly, and you know how like when जब ये हम कोई बहुत ही influential मूवी देख लेते हैं, जैसे मैंने जेम्स बॉन्ड देख ली, ठीक है, तो मैं एक हफ्ता में जेम्स बॉन्ड की तरह बात करूंगा, मैं जेम्स बॉन्ड की तरह ड्रेस करने की कोशिश करूंगा, चाल बोल सब उसके तरह हो जाता है, ठीक है, मतलब हो जाता है, because it's so influential. So now imagine there are 5 people in a class, someone's coming from an astronomy class, someone's coming from a computer science class, someone's coming from a linguistics class, and they're all attending a maths class. They're bringing those things with them to the discussion, the group discussions jo hote hai.
Right.
Fucking mind blowing.
Right.
मतलब it's यहाँ पे like मैं so I did, for those who don't know, I did my first 2 years of bachelor's here at Manipal University, and then I transferred to university in the US for the last 2 years of my bachelor's. ठीक है. So when I was in Manipal, it I feel bad saying this, but it literally felt like we were
Caged.
bhed. We were sheep,
Right.
because this was a herd of sheep that this rushed out from the hostels in the morning. They're all going to the same place. एक ही क्लासरूम में गए, वहां से फिर भेड़ों की तरह निकल के एक और क्लासरूम गए, फिर वहां से भेड़ों की तरह निकल के एक और क्लासरूम में गए. We are having the same fucking experience throughout the day.
Right. And none of it is conscious. अगर इस लेवल पे ग्रुप लेवल पे ऑपरेट कर रहे हो तुम तो.
हाँ.
Right, क्योंकि you are just following the person in front of you then.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I sometimes I didn't even have to think where I was going, because I was like, हाँ इस ग्रुप में घुस जाओ, ले ही जाएंगे, मतलब पहुंच ही जाएंगे.
कहीं ना कहीं तो पहुंच ही जाओगे.
हाँ.
Right. True. In fact, on the flip side, like जो वहाँ पे the optionality is kind of paralyzing. Like the downside to the kind of education model I was exposed to, because I didn't go to a college here, bro. I didn't have that luxury. Right? I went to a school, then I tried to do CA, which is like a massive step down from a college in terms of the quality of education that you can get. Like not quality, but the experience of education. It kills the desire in you to learn any further, because that is how rote learning based that entire program is. And then when I went there, like, you know, as a matter of fact, I couldn't believe for the first few months you could be so happy with your life. Like, I'm not kidding. I'd call up my mother and I'd be like, I don't believe this. You can be happy? Right? Like that is how, because I was suddenly, and it's not that ideas that 19-year-olds float in classrooms are ripe or right. They're neither.
Yeah.
They're just they're just a fertile ground for you to think better. And it's a fertile ground for constant innovation and constant building up on stuff. Like, here is the funny part. You've seen me do one of those things I do on my Hindi YouTube channel where I react to somebody who's established, like a Sandeep Maheshwari recently, and then Acharya Prashant last week, right? I'll do somebody else. And people have such a hard time admitting that. Back there, we were doing this in classroom every day. Wait, I see what you say. I take this part out, which might be kind of correct. Let me synthesize it and create another response that'll be solid disagreement. And they'll be like, you know, that kind of works. I'll see how I can do you better. So there is also that fostering of, well, sometimes mechanical, but mostly very genuine, how do you say, intellectual fertility.
Yeah.
Right?
College is at its best. I'll reframe this. At its best, college should teach you how to think. I just think we're not doing that.
And you know what? I think it's such a hard task to teach somebody what to think. Let me give college some more breathing room and propose an alternative. If you can
sorry. By the way, just a quick note before we move on. I did say something, and then I realized that in some institutions in India, it's not as regimented as the schedule that I described.
Sure.
Like, for example, IITs and Jadavpur University, because my dad went there, I know, so on and so forth. Some of the more leading universities in India do have a little more freedom than the scheduling that I talked about. But that's why they're the leading universities of India. Ab now imagine agar thoda sa aur kar dete. So I just wanted to add that note, because I think it was a little unfair.
Here is what I'll say to a developing nation like India for what it could do to its universities, right? And like, here's what the universities or colleges should try to do. Simple. Bring together a bunch of competent people, right? And the second step is you give them enough freedom for them to explore their individuality.
Yeah.
And then the third step, the final step is, you know why classes are important? To create culture where ideas are currency. That's it. End of story. You've created the perfect, like, chai pot bana diya tumne, theek hai, badhiya tumhari chai pak rahi hai. This is where the creme de, and bro, here is the deal. I'm not saying IITs are inferior. I'm not saying Jadavpur or any of those universities. They're good universities. If you see on the larger scale, they're average universities. But here's the point. They're our best. So anything below those is absolute trash on the global scale.
Yeah, I want, if I have a goal in coming back to India, it is to see our education systems whether that be universities or schools or online education or edtech or even YouTube, fucking YouTube. Okay, I wanted to be the best in the world. So mere field se I'll give you a few examples. Why is it that me as an Indian, right, when I have to think about really popular science shows, immediately the three names that pop up in my head
Are Cosmos,
are
Cosmos, and
Carl
Cosmos.
Sagan, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Bill Nye the Science Guy. Why? They're great. I love them. I love them to death. Right? Idols. Okay. Why does an Asian name not pop up in my head? I want to change that.
Like from the science popularizing standpoint, right?
But yeah, because that's the field I know. But obviously, if we start this in one, then everything should be interconnected. But yeah, that's my little domain.
Can I imagine Tirthak Saha doing Neil deGrasse Tyson a few years from now?
If Neil deGrasse Tyson does reels on Instagrams, then yes.
Right? That's what maybe you should do. You should have a special reel, like kind of a thing where you're Neil deGrasse Tyson today. Maybe like astronomy.
I've started, yeah. Actually, I've started. I've been having this conversation for about a year and a half before I came back to the US, and I know you and I talked about it alag se. The time when we went live with Vishnu, we talked about this a little bit, but I have been in conversation with people from the new age, I'd call it the new age entertainment industry, which is social media plus, a bit here, a bit there.
Basically, people around me and like me, right? Right, that'd be new age. Right,
etc.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I was trying to learn from you guys for the last year and a half of how you are commanding so much attention, because that is key, right? Once you have the attention of someone, once you have the respect and love of someone, then you can teach them. We try to teach people before we do these three things. And I think that's where we fail, right? So, अभी अगर मैं जाके रैंडम बंदा, no one knows me, I try and go, I सुन quantum physics पढ़ाता मैं तेरे को, बैठ. This is just going to give me the finger and like walk off, right? But if it's like, oh, Tirthak, yeah, I know, like, he's a friend,
right,
and he wants to say something, I'll sit down, I'll listen to him.
Right.
Okay. So I've been trying to understand that whole spectrum, and now recently I have started doing these short little 1 minute video. Oh, by the way, I don't have reels. Just want to clarify that. Instagram, if you're watching, please give me reels.
तेरे को access ही नहीं है reels का? ऐसा
फीचर
क्यों?
दिखता है मेरे को, उस पे दबाता हूँ तो ग्लिच आता है उसमें, यूजेबल नहीं है मेरा.
Okay, that's very interesting. Instagram, go on.
Yeah. Anyway, so I've started doing these like, मतलब post पे the time limit is 1 minute. ठीक है. So I started taking up things like topics like time travel or parallel reality simulations, etc., so on and so forth.
The cooler part
and
of
fun,
physics.
And fun stories from my NASA days, like things that I've learned about NASA when I was doing those 2 research projects and all. So and then my brain started thinking, how the hell do I take all of this and combine it into 1 minute? And then I realized that my goal as a science popularizer is not the same as a science teacher. My goal is to get you interested enough where you will go and तेरे पूरे आज के 24 hours के इंटरनेट हिस्ट्री, सर्च हिस्ट्री में एक लाइन एटलीस्ट होना चाहिए जहां पे you've typed in something where you've searched something about science. That's it. That's my job.
Right.
So that's what I started doing, and I was hugely surprised. I know you guys have been telling me to put out content for a long time, and I've been like, "Kya kaun dekhega?" and this and that. But I've been hugely surprised by the reception towards it. So I'll give you a non-science example. I also do like a lot of like linguistics and history and culture and stuff like that. So अभी अगर मैं किसी बच्चे को जाके बोल दूं कि etymology का ना है तेरे को बैठ के,
etymology का क्या? तेरा आवाज कट गया. Etymology का क्या?
Sorry. Etymology सीखना है तेरे को. Like, are you interested in etymology? And people will be like, what the fuck is etymology, right? Like, no, I'm not interested. Sounds like a boring ass word, right?
Sounds heavy.
And like, that's fair. And this brings me back to my first point, the first point that I made, right? Like, there's no human context to it, right? So I'm trying to teach them how to write before speaking.
Right.
So then what I do is I'm thinking about, okay, So I found something. Then I started the video like, what's the one thing that most of us young people have at one point or another heard from an older person? That our way of speaking any language, whether it's English or Hindi or whatever, or texting language, or like all the short forms that we use like LOL, ROFL and all that. Okay, this is ruining language. We are creating new words, right?
Right.
And YOLO and all, right? And a lot of them are not in the dictionary. You're creating new words that don't exist. Like, ye kya bakwas hai, right? Like, you're ruining language. This is a sentiment that a lot of people have human context with. किसी ना किसी चाचा फूफा ने आगे कभी ना कभी तो डांटा होगा कि ऐसे क्यों, तेरे को स्पेलिंग नहीं आती, तेरे को ग्रामर नहीं आता, दिस एंड दैट. एंड देन आई गो इनटू द स्टोरी ऑफ कि अगर ऐसा होता है तो आप ये कहानी आप अपने चाचा फूफा को बता सकते हैं.
Right.
कि 16th 15th सेंचुरी में, ठीक है, द फ्रेज दैट people used to mark the end of a conversation was God be with ye. ठीक है. उसको फिर थोड़ा सा वहां उस टाइम का जो यंगर जनरेशन था, दे वर वेरी लेजी विद इट. तो वो बी ई जो है, बी विद ई का, ई को हटा के जितने भी ईज है, वावल्स है, वो उनको हटा के वो अपॉस्ट्रोफी डालते थे.
गॉड
तो
बी
ये उस टाइम का टेक्सटिंग लैंग्वेज था, एसएमएस लैंग्वेज था कि लेटर में वो गॉड बी विद ई को हटा के ये डाल दिया, अरे मुझे नहीं लिखना है लेटर. ठीक है. उसके बाद आई थिंक 1570s में एक तब का एक कोई स्कॉलर था, ठीक है, हार्वी, गैब्रियल हार्वी करके, उसने एक दोस्त को एक लेटर लिखा जिसमें उसने और शॉर्ट कर दिया उसको, सारे वो अपॉस्ट्रोफी डाल दिया उसमें और शॉर्ट कर दिया. ठीक है. GBWYE हो गया वो. ठीक है. फिर उसको और शॉर्ट होते 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 नाउ दैट वर्ड हैज बिकम गुड बाय. तो इट कम्स फ्रॉम गॉड बी विद ये. ये क्या था? ये एटिमोलॉजी था. पर ये कहानी था. एंड दिस कहानी स्टार्टेड विद अ ह्यूमन प्रॉब्लम दैट द यंगस्टर्स ऑफ टुडे हैव.
राइट.
And they have human context with it. They have a human pain with it.
Right.
So now when I tell them the etymology, yeah, now they remember it.
Let me try something like that. ठीक है.
हाँ.
I heard this, the most chat सुन रहे हो तो सुनना है इस बात को बहुत ध्यान से, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात है. I heard the craziest thing when I was in Israel. ठीक है. Israel में, because they speak Hebrew. Hebrew has been a dead language for thousands of years. इन लोगों ने Hebrew को दोबारा स्पीकिंग लैंग्वेज बनाया ही इसीलिए है ताकि इजराइल और उसकी जूइश आइडेंटिटी प्रिजर्व हो. मतलब उन्होंने रिकंस्ट्रक्ट करी है लैंग्वेज डेड होने के बाद फॉर थाउजेंड्स ऑफ इयर्स. इमेजिन इफ वी ब्रॉट संस्कृत बैक टू लाइफ. दैट इज काइंड ऑफ व्हाट दे डिड. राइट. एंड सो संस्कृत में there is enough words, but there is no words for things like fidget spinner. So if you introduce a random toy like a fidget spinner or a podcast, उसके लिए words नहीं होते उस language में. तो what they started doing was they were like, अब इसको यार language देनी है, कहाँ से दें? Word तो कोई existing है नहीं. ठीक है. हिंदी में तो हम English ही यूज कर देते हैं. तो ये लोग 5th ग्रेडर्स को और 4th ग्रेडर्स को फॉर्म्स बंटवाते हैं स्कूलों में. तुम बताओ क्या वर्ड होना चाहिए, तुम यूज करते हो ना, तुम बताओ. एंड दिस इज वेयर दे कम अप विद नॉवल वर्ड्स टू ऐड टू देयर वोकैबुलरी. इट इज डन बाय 4th graders and 5th graders. That is how words are born in Israel. And that's such a beautiful phenomena, bro. I was blown by that.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Like, it's... Yeah, I'm at a loss for words because now I'm thinking about it, right? Like, because like that's what it should be. The process of learning language, science, everything should be a living whole,
right?
Rather than a fragmented piece of a corpse.
But here's something also I'll say, right? We went ahead and we bashed a lot of like how our systems are placed. Let me talk about the individual, the society for a little bit. Right? Here is my experience, and I think it's very overlapping with your experience doing this. Bro, I don't speak an easy language. No matter how hard I try. पता है जब मैं स्टार्ट कर रहा था ना, I was way more complex. That's my personal preference of language. अगर तू और मैं कभी बैठ के बात करेंगे और मेरे को ऑडियंस का जोर नहीं लेना ना, हम सिर्फ like abstraction में खींचेंगे. समझ रहे? That's my preferred playing field. I don't have to be simple then, right?
Yeah, because you and I have that,
right? We can do that vocabulary exchange, right? And तो जब मैंने start किया था, I was in college, I was a student. मेरा mindset was all student, and so in student and across students, my language was such, right? And from day one, people were telling me, you've got to simplify, you've got to simplify, you've got to simplify. So I opened Prakhar Ke Pravachan, which was a simpler attempt. And even then, people were like, you've got to simplify, you've got to simplify. And I went on simplifying until a point I hit rock bottom. I was like, I cannot be more simple than this. I cannot be more simple than this at all, right? I would lose me if I became more simple than this.
Yeah.
And so even at this level of buoyancy that I'm at right now, I'm fairly complex to understand. Right? I'm not saying I'm
Yeah.
very complex, I'm very smart or none of that, just fairly complex to understand.
Yeah.
The fact that people follow me over hours
Yeah.
to understand what I'm saying, and they've been doing for months, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right? And not just across, say, this conversation or my live streams, but across the variety of very like intellectual conversations I've been honored to have on this podcast. Right? I've
Yeah.
spoken to people in neuroscience, in psychoanalysis, in filmmaking, in so many different domains, health, and people will sit and listen. And this is
Yeah.
just a testament to this emerging sense of a higher ceiling that the Indian audience,
Yeah.
that the Indian population is realizing. It is not just sarkari naukri where the buck stops now. It's higher than that.
Yeah.
I want to learn for the sake of learning. Let's go back to the joke we were making, Maslow's need hierarchy. We are slowly right. This is the slow ascendance to self-actualization. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, right? I'm not saying I'm important to it or even integral to it. What I'm saying is
Yeah.
this: I'm a symptom of that. The fact that there
Yeah.
is people willing to listen to me means that we're moving from a place away where hunger is the primary concern and where intellectual hunger is becoming the primary concern. So the
Yeah.
time is ripe. The iron is hot. Hammer it down. This is the moment where I like, if there is rogue content creators like Tirthak watching me right now who are halfway between thinking if the audience deserves the kind of intelligence they've managed to accumulate over years or not,
Yeah.
if they are worth people's attentions or not, this is a call to order to all of you. If you are unsure, I will lead you into battle. Let's go. Let's teach these people things we've managed to learn in our very smart, short lives.
Yeah.
Let's give them the childhood we probably never found. I'd be glad if a 15-year-old
Yeah.
sitting here today is now suddenly interested in physics. Right?
Yeah.
Like, job well done, Tirthak and Prakhar. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's how I motivate myself, right? Like initially when I just started, like, so again, a little bit of trivia about me is that throughout my career, I've had several teaching gigs here and there. कभी यूनिवर्सिटी में guest lecturer, कभी यहाँ पे ये, कभी वो, ठीक है. But I've never had that satisfaction that I get now from just putting out like a random video जिसका idea मेरे पे दिमाग में आया, and then getting a message from this kid, this 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid, ठीक है, at 2 a.m. in the night in my DM, going, dude, I never thought about it like this. I'm not even like, I was planning to not take science, and now I'm rethinking it.
Right.
And because this is the age where we can actually, like, we can set the ball in motion. I just think it's powerful.
No. It's super powerful because here is what I think, right? See, I'm not saying politics and religion is every society's living room and fireplace. There is no way you don't sit in the living room and everybody sits there. And there is no way you enjoy the fireplace. Everybody enjoys that, right? So those are sort of the two defaults you'll find in all societies being discussed. You go to some place in Zimbabwe, they'll be discussing that. You go to some place in Middle East, they'll be discussing that. They'll discuss politics and religion everywhere. And an average 17-year-old today is more of an expert in politics and religion than anything else. Right? And so what I'm saying is that the default channels of intellectual, energy, they're being tapped into.
Yeah.
Right? But they're being over tapped into. So let me borrow some of that. Let me create wonder amongst the youth towards something that is not politics and religion. Because here is also what's true about politics and religion. They've been the biggest dividers in humankind. This is what us, and that's probably why they're so commonly, like that's why they're the living rooms, is because it's a very easy us and them situation there. Like the number of people that are bloody, and it's not just people, just the sheer volume of individuals that are smitten by theology, or for that matter, our ambiguous cultural history in the name of science is phenomenal. I've had uncles walk up to me and say something so absurd. They'll be like, Prakhar, you talk about all this science stuff. Why don't you talk about how all of this science stuff was available to us in our religious? And I'm like, यार, मतलब जरूरी है कि वो जो unconfirmed point है वो मैं make करूं. और फिर उनके पास, bro, they have tremendous amounts of like volumes of that evidence with them. And I'm like, आपको underlying science पता है? And because that's what my interest is. My point is, कई लोग वो काम करें, बहुत बढ़िया बात है. सब लोग वो काम करें, मतलब हम distracted हैं. हम over indulging in politics and religion.
Yeah.
ठीक है यार, 30-40% लोग हमेशा पॉलिटिक्स और रिलीजन प्राइमरी रखेंगे, बट हमारे साइंटिस्ट और एंटरप्रेन्योर्स कहाँ हैं? हमारे टेक्नोलॉजी वो कहाँ है? स्पेयर हेडर्स, वो सिचुएशन कहाँ है? आई एम मिसिंग वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट डिसअपॉइंटमेंट्स आई हैड टू फेस व्हेन आई मूव्ड माय पॉडकास्ट टू इंडिया, बिकॉज इनिशियली मैं वहाँ कर रहा था, वो कि यहाँ है ही नहीं ब्रो, यहाँ सिर्फ पॉलिटिशियन से बात करने को, क्योंकि ब्रो जितने एंटरप्रेन्योर्स भी है ना, फ्रैंकली वो सच नहीं बोलते आके, ठीक है, वो भी उनको भी 2 डिग्री ऑफ झूठ बोलना पड़ता है, क्योंकि सच्चाई और समझ रहे हो, और उसके अलावा जो भी कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स होते हैं उनको पब्लिक इमेज की टेंशन होती है, लाइक देयर इज नो ऑनेस्ट, सिर्फ जर्नलिस्ट जो है ना वो ऑनेस्ट भी इस सेंस में कि हमारा पब्लिक व्यू भी ये है और हम पॉडकास्ट पे भी यही बात कर रहे हैं, कि हम लिख भी ये रहे हैं, हमारे काम से ये बात एक सेंस में, चाहे हम पीछे से पेड हो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, मैं उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा, क्योंकि लोग बोलेंगे जर्नलिस्ट को क्या कह रहा है, बट इन द सेंस दैट देयर इज मोर इंटेग्रिटी इन टॉकिंग टू अ जर्नलिस्ट, बिकॉज यू कैन कंफर्म दैट ऑन गूगल. With an entrepreneur, I'll talk, and then I later find out the company is saying something absolutely else, like the balances are saying something else. So it's like there is no intellectual there's no outlets of intellect in India, and there's nobody harboring that. And we are a 1.5 billion people strong nation. We are the youngest population in the world.
Yep. Have been for a while.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure, right.
I think it's also it's interesting because you brought up the whole entrepreneurship point, and so my life revolves around the science part of it, the technology part of it, and the entrepreneurship part of it. And it's just, so I've worked in Palo Alto, I've worked across the world, I've worked with entrepreneurs across the world, I've worked with entrepreneurs in India. Again, one common thread is that the people who make it, they feel like they have to protect their position by not giving away how they made it. It's slightly related to what you said, and I think that might be where the whole public image thing is coming from. Might be, might not be. I might be wrong about this.
No, I'm not concerned about the public image. I'm just saying, like, listen, एक crop खराब गई, कोई नहीं, next season.
Yeah.
Right?
नहीं, वो तो है नहीं, by public image I mean, like, the things that they say, like, okay, this is how I made my company versus this is how actually the company was made, right? So for example, if I had a rich dad, which I don't, but if I had a rich dad and my rich dad had rich friends and they gave me $1 million loan to start my startup with, I would probably be a little averse to disclosing that to the public. कि अगर मुझे TED Talk पे फिर बुलाया, ठीक है, और मेरे को बोलने को बोला कि इंस्पायर करो लोगों को, so that's not very inspiring. And there's very few people that I've seen on a TED Talk come and talk about not facing hardship, right?
It's such a formula, bro. It's so boring. That's why
it's a formula. It's a bullshit formula. And it I think another thing is that it diminishes the people who maybe actually have faced hardship. And
you
it also diminishes.
You fetishize poverty like that. ओहो, मैं पहले बड़ा गरीब था. अबे भाई, एक्चुअल लोग भी गरीब थे जिन्होंने मेहनत करी है, ठीक है? तो मतलब कट गया क्या तू? तीर्थ कट गया. But हाँ, right. You're here. But like my point is, stop fetishizing this kind of stuff. Stop fetishizing hardships and poverty to the point where you lose value out of hardships and poverty.
Yeah. And again, mental health. That's another related issue. People have started to romanticize mental health issues. And like, I'm a person who's gone through mental health issues, and I look at these posts, I'm like, why do you need to do that?
I don't think, like, ठीक है, तुम you can accept your depression, you can accept your anxiety, you can own it, but if you're owning it on social media, that's cause of like questioning. I'm not saying there's something wrong with you, but that's where my bet would be.
Also there needs to be a purpose to discussing your issues with a larger audience, right? The purpose cannot be that I just had to make a post about it, right? The purpose has to be maybe giving someone else hope. Ki dekho, this was me, this is what happened, this is how I dealt with it, now this is me. That's a story that you can tell. Same thing with poverty, same thing with how you learned a subject, or same thing with how you built a company. And that's the overarching thing that I'm trying to say, is that when people put out stories in their public image format, they seem to have lost the purpose of why they are doing that. The purpose is not anymore that I want to help other people.
You were cutting out massively, bro. Your internet's
I
really betraying.
uh, sh- uh,
Bro, मेरे को नहीं पता चैट अमन धत्तरवाल के साथ क्या हुआ है, तो आई डोंट नो. I have no
is
idea.
it any better now? Is
हाँ,
it
it's
any
better.
better
It's
now?
better. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, go on.
Trying to
नहीं, तू
fix
कट
my
रहा है.
net.
तू कट रहा है. तू टेंशन मत ले, फिक्स कर ले. मैं I'll talk to the audience in the meanwhile. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Why don't you ask 100 people you know what is English word for dharma? अच्छा, किसी का स्कूल मेट भी है ये. ओ, लुकिंग फॉर फोन. एक उल्टा फोन. चैट क्या चल रहा है? हाउ आर यू लाइकिंग दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन? हाउ आर यू लाइकिंग दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन? बताओ मेरे को. वी आर अबाउट टू क्लोज इट. इट्स बीन अबाउट एन आवर प्लस. आई एम नॉट फीलिंग दैट वेल एंड आई एम श्योर ही इज नॉट. कल इसका बर्थडे था यार. हाय चैट, शेरो पी. हाँ, नहीं है भाई मेरा बर्थडे आज. मेरा बर्थडे आज नहीं है भाई. मेरा बर्थडे आज नहीं है. मैं बताना नहीं चाहता तुम्हें कब है मेरा बर्थडे. आई एम नॉट गोना टेल यू. हाँ भाई बता.
Prakhar, is
तू बहुत कट रहा है. तेरे इंटरनेट में कोई सीन है.
better?
तेरे इंटरनेट में कोई सीन हो रहा है रे बाबू. देयर इज समथिंग विद योर इंटरनेट ब्रा. हाँ भाई, तीर्थक की दुनिया पलट गई है. उसका इंटरनेट बंद कर दिया गया है. भाई जॉर्ज सोरोस कंट्रोवर्सी, ये कॉन्स्पिरेसी, यही मैं करता रहूँगा तो फिर अक्लमंदी की बातें कौन करेगा भाई. थैंक्स यार, मैंने अभी अभी अपनी दाढ़ी और बियर्ड कटवाया है. थैंक यू फॉर नोटिसिंग. मैंने बोला अगर हम तीर्थक से मिलने वाले अच्छे लगने चाहिए, वरना लोग बोलेंगे क्या फ़ायदा. मैं 21 ईयर्स का हूँ. यस, आई एम 21. यू गॉट दैट राइट. एब्सोल्युटली. आचार्य का श्राप 3.0 हो सकता है. आचार्य जी श्राप में बिल्कुल एडवांस हो गए हों. वील ट्राई एंड रीच आउट टू कुणाल शाह फॉर श्योर. हाँ भाई, क्या सीन है?
यार क्या हो रहा
आई थिंक तेरा इंटरनेट डाउन है दोस्त.
है? Yeah.
कोई सी नहीं है. हम लोग वैसे भी क्लोज करने वाले थे. तू एक काम कर, वीडियो ऑफ कर एक बार. हाँ, अब बात कर.
Is
भाई नहीं, अभी भी तेरी आवाज़ कट रही है. कोशिश करता रहे, देखते हैं, क्योंकि तेरी आवाज़ आ जानी चाहिए ठीक. नहीं हो रही. तीर्थक एक बार जंप ऑफ करके दोबारा ज्वाइन करने की कोशिश कर, तब तक मैं बात करता हूँ. हाँ भाई, क्या चल रहा है? श्याम शर्मा को इनवाइट करो. थोड़े दिनों में करेंगे यार पॉलिटिकल पॉडकास्ट ना. मेरा मूड नहीं है इस टाइम. बड़ी ना पॉलिटिकल डेंसिटी चल रही है. जब थोड़ा माहौल खुलता है ना, तो आप दूर से ऑब्जर्व कर पाते हो, फिर आप अच्छे से बात कर पाते हो. अभी माहौल बहुत गर्म है. पॉलिटिकल पॉडकास्ट थोड़े टाइम बात करेंगे, तब लेके आएंगे सबको. रॉयन रियल को एंड होने से रोक लेंगे भाई. तुम्हारा भाई सुपर हीरो है, तुम क्या सोच रहे हो? होने नहीं देंगे. नहीं देखा मैंने ऑनेस्टली उसके बाद कर रॉयन रियल. थोड़ी देर पहले तो सो के उठा हूँ भी. बाल कटवाने चला गया था. तीर्थक पे BSNL का सिम है. हाँ, और रस्टी ने ख़राब कर दिया सीन. ठीक है चैट. आ गया तीर्थक, आ गया. लेट्स सी if it works now. If it does not, we'll say bye and we'll have to go anyway. उल्टे तीर्थक सीधा हो जा. हाँ, nope, no happening. कोई नहीं, तू हैंग अप कर दे. इन एनी केस वी आर अबाउट टू रैप. तू चिल कर, ठीक है? मैं इनको बाय बोलता हूँ. कोई सी नहीं है. ठीक है, ओके. Chat, this has been absolutely amazing. हमारा purpose इस conversation को करने का मेरा और तीर्थक का was to start asking the question कि ऐसा क्यों है that we do not create people who are as interested in say science for that matter as हम लोग we turned out to be as soon as school was over, as soon as school was removed. वो क्या है? What is this ingredient? What is this recipe for interest and curiosity, which is a natural human tendency to evolve in our kids, in our generations, so that हम लोग भी we look at future with a brighter hope and not with just, let's just say, a regret for the past. Like abhi tak na, this idea of India, this new idea of India, whatever we have is still not, it's still not looking into the future very heavily. And I think individually we are still not looking into the future very heavily because we are focused so deeply on just politics at times, man. Like it's so surprising, man. This has been probably the starkest realization for me over the course of doing my YouTube is very young people are very politically radicalized. And I'm not taking the Prakhar ke Pravachan route to politics here. I'm taking the PG radio route to politics here, where I talk to people who indulge in politics, and so I'm going to be real about it. Listen, as a 21, 22, 23-year-old, you are absolutely not needed to make up your political mind. Be more soluble right now. You are to grow for at least 10 more, 15 more years before you begin to understand how the world operates. Right now, keep your I don't knows close and fake pretentious I knows far away. So try to learn what you can for certain first, and then move up the hierarchy of trying to understand how you should govern other people or how your decisions should affect other people. And that's what I mean. I think it's kind of insane we expect 25-year-olds to make up their political minds in an environment that is so informationally dense as now. I keep saying it's like the same story has two different narratives and you have to pick one. Is the constant pressure you go through. Don't fall for that. There is far more interesting. There is a reason why, the America as a whole might be involved with politics, but Silicon Valley, up until now at least, had staved off it, and it does well because it refuses to go down that drain where almost no conversation impacts nothing. वहाँ पे right होना impacts nothing. Elon Musk does not care about being right about his political choices because he needs to be right about his technological or, for that matter, entrepreneurial choices. And that is kind of where I want to nudge you. ठीक है, तुम्हारी जो extra energy है, this desire to know and learn है, उसको, और if there is parents watching, if there's older people watching, अपने बच्चों को ये बोलो, teach this to your kids. Use up your extra energy towards things that are not religion and politics, at least not at this age. Be more solvent. I'm not saying ignore those, but just be more soluble. Let information come, let it settle over you, see what works for you, and then develop your viewpoint over time. And so Tirthak and I just intended to ask the question how we could make science education more popular. How can we change that? There is a certain few more aspects that I'd like to cover at some point, which is how do you approach education? How do you approach what you're taught at school? How do you approach your board exams and whatnot? And around board exams, to मैं videos बनाऊंगा ही, but I made one video about this already. It's on PKP Clips, my channel PKP Clips. How to change the education system of India. Because हम लोग यहाँ बैठ के सिर्फ systems को लेकर रोना नहीं करेंगे, right? Like I'd rather give you tangible advice from my opinion. And one of those things is for sure learning to understand, not learning to pass exams or get good grades. But long conversation. We'll get to that some other time. This was a good live stream. I'm trying to get this channel started again. I'm trying to put the effort of having more regular conversations, and it's going to happen with time. So you're going to meet a lot more interesting people. If you do not subscribe to this channel, subscribe to this channel right now, and like, share, comment if you like this conversation so it gets across to more people. I will see you very soon. I think there's an episode on Sunday coming out with this gentleman who's about 23, if I'm not wrong. Very young guy from Bangalore. Absolutely a genius. Started his own medtech startup in America and is doing phenomenally well, exploring the idea space for himself in an entrepreneurial fashion. Right? Like that guy's doing. So we'll learn from his experience how he went from being in Bangalore. He probably skipped grades, then dropped out of school, then got invited into a college very early on. Very interesting story. Extremely interesting story. And then created this very interesting machine that will probably save lives. Anyway, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. I'll see you guys soon.